Hey Canucks fans, welcome to the line change. Before we bring on our special guest, I'm going to give a quick shout out and thank you to my sponsor, GasJack Art, maker of this amazing artwork you see behind me. And you guys can check him out yourselves at gasjackart.com. There's a link to his website in the description down below. Now, without any further ado, let's bring on our guest, Matt Sekeres from Sekeres and Price.
Hey Tyler, how you doing? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Matt. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time.
Happy to.
Let's start off by introducing yourself for those who may not know who you are.
One half of Sekeres and Price. We've been going as 14 years here as a daily sports talk presentation in Vancouver, many years on radio at the old TSN 1040, and for the last 4+ years here in the digital space on our own from a studio at the Sheraton Wall Center, Vancouver. So we're daily, start at noon, usually about an hour and a half to a 2-hour show. My partner is Blake Price. Our producer is Mike Rogerson, and we just have a blast cutting up the Vancouver Canucks, chopping up all the talk with the Vancouver Canucks, the Vancouver Whitecaps, BC Lions, and all the teams of local interest, including the Toronto Blue Jays and Seattle Mariners. Tyler, I see your sweatshirt today. You're supporting a couple of clubs.
Yeah. I asked this question of everyone who's on. If there's one thing in Canucks history that you could change, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Game 7 of the 2011 Stanley Cup Final and the aftermath as well. Mm-hmm. Covered that game. I was still in my newspaper days at the time. And, the game went quietly into the night, right? Petered out in a 4-0 Bruins victory. There was no last chance assault from the Vancouver Canucks to try and get back into that deciding game. So it was a really dispiriting building after what had been an incredible run. And of course, as loud and as live a building as I had ever heard, Rogers Arena in that postseason, particularly the Burrows slay the Dragon goal against Chicago. So, so you're working the game and, the result matters less than, what your duties and responsibilities are. And no sooner did I get down below to the event level. I was in the media holding pen, ready to go into the Canucks dressing room. I looked at my phone and I got a text from a friend back east who said, "You're probably in the Canucks dressing room right now or about to be, but I want to let you know outside your city is burning." And I'm like, what? So I imagine I was 20, 30, 40 minutes talking to people after that game before I got a chance to go upstairs back to my computer and see what was happening to our city with the riots. So that is absolutely the June 15th, 2011, Tyler. That day from tip to tail would be the one in Canuck history that I change.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually downtown that day until the second period, and then luckily I left.
Yeah.
Got back to the North Shore, turned around and saw smoke. So I was like, I'm glad I left when I did.
Yeah, I was several hours working after the game. So by that time, taxi cabs were coming back into downtown, and I can remember taking one back to my apartment in Kitsilano, which had a nice little patio that overlooked downtown, and seeing just a big, huge plume of smoke. It was just an awful, awful, awful gut punch. You think you're as low as you can go with the result of a sporting event, and then somehow you wound up going even lower on that day with your thoughts and emotions. So, yep, glad we're past that one.
Mm-hmm. Moving more into Canucks talk, as after all, this is what this segment is called, Talking Canucks with Matt Sekeres. Just your quick impressions from the Canucks season up until this point.
Yeah, mixed bag so far. Look, after the first period last night, I was starting to go, okay, like I preached all week on the show. I'm not concerned. It's too early. No panic buttons, no must wins. Even 1-3 is not a disaster, but 2-0 after the first period last night. And I'm sitting there going, they've played one good period. They played 10 periods of hockey this season, and they played one good one, the third period against Calgary from the opener. So absolutely needed that bounce back second period. I think it's got a lot of people feeling much, much better about the club. For me, the headline story thus far has been Thatcher Demko. I mean, he's just been outstanding all the way back to that Vezina finalist form we saw from a couple of years ago. You have to love what that Abbotsford line did last night with Arshdeep Bains and Max Sasson and Linus Karlsson making their season debuts. I do think getting contributions from like that tier of player is going to be very important for the Canucks. So I think that's an excellent development for them last night. Look, Quinn Hughes hasn't been otherworldly yet. I think so. You can anticipate that the Canucks captain is going to take over some games going forward. So I would consider that a positive as well, that you're 2-2 without having seen the best from Quinn Hughes yet. Pettersson was better last night. Pettersson needs to get a whole lot better. The other thing that has struck me is I think Adam Foote has shown his inexperience as an NHL head coach. When you take a look at some of the moves he's been late to, like we thought it very odd that he practiced Pettersson with DeBrusk and Besser, and then immediately after the practice started talking about putting different line mates there. And we were like, okay, well, why wouldn't you practice it that way? So I think he was a little late on that. I think he was a little late on calling Max Sasson back up and getting him into that practice, because Coots practiced and then got sent down. So I think it's going to be a learning curve for Adam Foote. And I think we've seen some elements of that. Power play looked better last night, but the power play hasn't been great shakes yet this year. Look, I went into the season, Tyler, thinking this is a team that is going to struggle to score goals. They have 13 through 4 games, which is probably about right for what their talent level is. I am a little concerned, though, about the goal scoring going forward.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the game last night, thoughts on the game? Were there things you liked, maybe even disliked from the Canucks last night?
Well, I mean, again, going back to that Abbotsford line, you have to love that Abbotsford line and the way it played. And, the analytics were terrific for that line. And even better, it was on the road, right? Like Adam Foote doesn't get to control that matchup on the road, and yet still it looked that good. Garland's a treat. I mean, he brings it each and every night. You never have to worry about effort level from Connor Garland, so quite liked him. Like the fact that we saw some goals born out of speed from Filipino and Max Sasson. I mean, Tyler, you've watched the Canucks. It's been forever since they've been a fast team in the NHL, right? But they've got some better skaters, I think, this year. And so it was neat to see Canucks breaking out into open ice, scoring breakaway or one-on-one goals with the goaltender. I quite like that as well. Power play again. The movement was a whole lot better. Now, Dallas gets a couple of power play goals themselves, so I think that penalty kill unit probably has to fall on the negative side of the ledger. So yeah, a mixed bag this season, as you might expect with the 2-2 team, and a bit of a mixed bag last night, as you might expect after 0-2 after the first period and 4-2 after 40.
On that note, do you think we could still see a trade for a bona fide second line center, perhaps by December?
By December is going to be difficult. I think that might be the earliest you see it. Most teams like to take stock over the first 20 games, U.S. Thanksgiving, so that brings you into late November. Of course, we don't have as many teams that are fully rebuilt this year. Chicago and San Jose are looking to be better somewhat. We'll see where Pittsburgh is at and whether they're going to fully commit to a rebuild. Calgary as well, although their big trade piece is Rasmus Andersson, the defenseman, more so than any kind of centerman, unless Kadri becomes available, waiving his trade protection. So I think December is ambitious, because the other thing here, Tyler, is they are not the only team looking for a second line center. In fact, I made a list the other day of all the different teams that I've seen written about in terms of a second line center or a top 2 center hunt: Montreal, Winnipeg, Toronto, Florida, Carolina, LA, Washington, Utah, Boston, Philly, Nashville. So it's a long, long list. You're in a very competitive marketplace to get that player. I do think Canucks management is motivated. I do think Canucks management has a history of being deal makers and getting deals done where other guys aren't quite as aren't quite as quick to execute trades. So I think one is coming, but I'd be surprised if it's here by early December.
Impressions on Evander Kane so far since he became a Canuck?
Yeah, some good, some bad. Blake had the stat today that he's been on the ice for a lot of Canucks goals at even strength and not very many, if any, for the opposition. So that's pretty good. I have liked some of the physicality, particularly the game against Edmonton. I don't think he has been a great fit on that power play where they have him, but I'm not sure that I think he could possibly be a net front guy going forward. Canucks actually have some really good net front guys when you think, Besser can be that guy, DeBrusque can be that guy, I think Garland can be that guy, and Kane. So I'm interested to see where Evander is going to fit on the power play, if he fits at all on that first unit. Look, this is a really big season for Evander Kane. He didn't play at all last year in the regular season. He's in his mid-30s now. He's in the final year of his contract. So the Vancouver Canucks should be getting a highly, highly motivated player who's looking to continue his NHL career at a good freight. And, of course, for a local guy coming home. So it's kind of been what I expected. It seemed like he took it quite easy during training camp and preseason. And hey, I tend to cut vets a lot of slack in that regard. It's an awfully long season. If they don't want to push it all too much in preseason games, I get it. But I also think it's important for Evander Kane to ignite at some point here and be a contributing top 9 forward for them. And I'm not sure he's gotten quite there yet.
Thoughts or impressions of Braden Coots' 3-game stint before he was sent down?
Well, pretty quiet, right? I mean, heck, the competition stepped up. We started playing for reals against NHL lineups with 2 points on the line, and Braden Coots very much faded into the background. He had an awesome camp. He had an awesome preseason. He deserved everything the Vancouver Canucks gave him, but I think it's pretty clear he was not quite ready for prime time as an 18-year-old in the NHL. And that's no slight, because very few 18-year-olds are ready for prime time in the NHL. He never had the puck. His line never had the puck. They were getting absolutely destroyed on the advanced stats. So I think they made the right move at the right time. If anything, actually, I think you could argue that Sasson should have been in the lineup a little earlier than he was. I mean, he's 7 years older. He's a good skater, and he's got some NHL experience. And I think he would have served them a little bit better than Coots did through those first 3 games. So I think this is good for his development. It's a highly competitive Canadian World Junior team this year at forward. I mean, you're looking at 12, 13 center icemen who have first round pedigree, who are going to be vying for places on this team, or maybe a little bit short of that because some guys stick in the NHL. So I think the next feather in his cap will be to make that World Junior team.
Do you think we could maybe see Coots before the end of the season, or do you think they just let him marinate? Yeah.
Well, no, because now I think you have to prove that you need him from an emergency personnel standpoint. I could be wrong. I could be citing the old CBA or old rules, but my understanding is that after you sent a player back to junior, the only way you can call them back up is if you have like a devastating rash of injuries or illness at a certain position, and you can go to the NHL and say, look, we're out of centers. We need a center. Is it okay if we call up our prospect Coots? You may remember, Tyler, this became the case. This is why Mikey DiPietro played those games several years ago, because the Canucks needed a goaltender and didn't have goaltenders available to them, and thus were able to call him up. So no, and unfortunately he can't play at the AHL Abbotsford this year until that rule changes next year. Next year, NHL teams will be allowed to assign one 19-year-old from the CHL junior hockey to their AHL affiliate. And I imagine that if Braden Coots doesn't make the Canucks next year at a training camp, then he will be with the Abbotsford Canucks.
We touched on Blue Jays, Mariners at the top of the show. Just quick thoughts on Game 4.
Oh, well, the thing I absolutely loved about Game 4 was the interaction between Max Scherzer and John Schneider on the mound, and John Schneider leaving him in. Blake and I have maligned a fair bit on our show this October and previous Octobers as well. Just the diminished role of the starting pitcher in baseball playoff games. And so it has been wonderful to see developments like we've seen with the Dodgers and Yamamoto and Snell just pitching deep into games and being absolutely magnificent, like the traditional starting pitcher of years past. And then last night you get a scenario like, how often do managers go out to the mound these days and allow the guy out there to talk himself into the game, right? It never happens. And, you know, the analytics guys have won, the khakis have won, right? 2 times through the lineup. And that third time you become much more hittable. So you're seeing starting pitchers go 3, 4 in. I mean, the Mariners took out a pitcher who was winning the ball game after 3 innings earlier in the series. So what I loved about it is, you know, the starting pitcher should be a lead actor, a central character, a hero in the storytelling, in the narrative of a baseball game. And last night we got that. We got that from Mad Max Scherzer, but only because John Schneider was wise enough to let him in, leave him in, and only because Mad Max had such a reaction to seeing Schneider coming on out to get him. So to me, that was chef's kiss. To me, that is a moment. If the Blue Jays go on to win a World Series, that is a moment that will live in their club lore, alongside the Roberto Alomar home run in Oakland, maybe the Devon White catch in center field in the World Series. Not quite a Joe Carter level moment, don't get me wrong, but a playoff moment for the Blue Jays. And needless to say, an exclamation point on the Hall of Fame career of Max Scherzer, right? Because if the Jays don't wind up winning this series, who knows? Is that Max Scherzer's last start as a major league pitcher? So I fixated on that moment more than anything else in Game 4. And needless to say, when Vladdy hit that ball out in the late stages and it looked pretty good for a Blue Jays win, that pretty good moment as well.
On that note, now that the series is tied, who do you got winning the series? Or has your prediction not changed since the beginning?
Tyler, you see my hat, man.
I know.
I'm a Canadian baseball guy. I am for Canada's team. Blue Jays in 6 because I'm not sure my heart could take Game 7.
That's fair. That's fair. I like both the Mariners and the Jays, so I'm kind of stuck in a pickle between the two.
Yeah.
I actually took a picture of me wearing a split Mariners Blue Jays jersey because I couldn't.
That guy.
So indecisive. But honestly, I'd be happy with either team winning. At least I'll be able to say at least one of my favorite teams is in the World Series.
And we've talked about this on the show too, Tyler, like, because Blake and I both identify as Blue Jays fans, but we say, look, we root for the Seattle Mariners when they're playing anyone not named Toronto. And if the Mariners were to get to their first ever World Series, first of all, got tons of friends who are M's fans. They're going to be stoked. There'll be some awesome watch parties. And it will be amazing for that city because 50 years, I mean, we were talking on our show today, the Mariner fan is a little bit like the Canuck fan, right? 50 plus years or 50 years in existence, have never won a championship. I mean, at least the Canucks have gotten the Cup Finals. The Mariners haven't even done that. And so much of their fan base, expects things to go wrong for the team. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that after two losses on their home field. So no, if it can't be the Blue Jays, let it be the Mariners.
And then last question I have for you. This one's a bit of a doozy. Who's the better team, 2015 Blue Jays or the 2025 Blue Jays?
Ooh, I would have to think of the personnel on that 2015 team, but that was the year they went out and got David Price and Troy Tulowitzki. And that's the year they loaded up at the deadline, if I'm not mistaken. Joey Bats, Donaldson, Encarnacion. I'm trying to think now. The pitchers would have been David Price, Estrada. Do we have Aaron Sanchez working in relief as a young guy back then? I'm trying to think who the other starting pitchers were. Just off the top, Tyler, I want to say that 2015 team is better than this team. And look, that's not a knock on this team, but even the most ardent Blue Jays support. Like you're looking at Isaiah Kiner-Falefa starting 2 postseason games,
Mhm.
Miles Straw starting postseason games. Like the thing that's made this Blue Jays team so compelling and endeared them with fans is that they get contributions from everyone, right? Like the entire 26 guys on the roster all play their roles, and it's different guys stepping up on different nights. So I love the togetherness and the teamwork and the fact that they are a top to bottom team, TEAM, this season. But I would not fancy their chances in a series against that 2015 team with all those stars and MVP like Donaldson, Joey Bats, a 50 home run guy. Not to mention what they went out and did, Encarnacion, and then of course, not to mention what they went out and got at the deadline to strengthen that team.
I actually kind of agree with that. 2015 I felt was special, especially with guys like Donaldson, Bautista, whatnot. But thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. For those of you that have not, go ahead and check out Sekeres on Price, Monday to Friday, starting at about noon till about 1. Go ahead and check them out. They got some great stuff. I absolutely love the banter between you and Blake. It's awesome. And yeah, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
And how could I forget? R.A. Dickey was on that team. Marcus Stroman on that 2015 team. No, I appreciate it, buddy. You've always been a supporter of our show. I know you've been a long-time audience member. It was great to see Greta last week as we threw our first Canucks Army watch party of the season. So I appreciate you showing up and representing for that. And happy to join you here. Happy to reciprocate. All the best for today's show and beyond.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully I can have you on again at some point, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next watch party, hopefully.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. That was Matt Sekeres from Sekeres and Price. And if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find and interact with us on social media, as you can see there, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. I want to give a big thank you again to my guest, Matt Sekeres, coming on the show, giving us a little bit of his insight on the Vancouver Canucks. And, of course, a little bit of Blue Jays Mariners talk because that is, going on as well. But, again, if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And, as always, go Canucks go. And I'll see you guys in the next video.